What's up, guys? Today's vlog is gonna be pretty exciting. We got a ton of parts to install, and we'll open everything up. We'll show you all that. But first, one of my good friends from New York, Dylan, who runs a company called Third Street Co., recommended that I introduce myself for anyone that doesn't know me. So my name is Jake Aquilina. I am 23 years old, and I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, grew up there, and I moved to Dallas, Texas for graduate school. So I am a graduate student. I'm in a PhD program for chemistry, and essentially being in grad school as a PhD student in chemistry, I can get paid for it while I do research. So that's like my full-time job essentially. So student, kind of paid for it, so that's my full-time job, but I love racing and I love doing car stuff on the side, so that's what I do, and this is my passion, so that's what I'm doing for you guys. So what are we doing today?
Checking the O2 sensors, and really just looking over everything, seeing if we find anything, out of place or fucked up.
Everything's fucked up.
Some schmutzy ma. Alright.
It's crud.
Yeah, so we got some nice
What are we looking at here, Jakey?
shit. Here we're looking at our headers. This is the headers that made up with cylinders 1, 2, 3. This is the headers that line up with cylinders 4, 5, 6. So we're going to look at the O2 sensor for cylinders 4, 5, 6 because we had suspected our system was running rich in cylinder 4, 5, 6 because it was tested for bank 2. So we're going to check these and then we're going to see what's up. Hi.
What up, baby?
Damn, girl. You cute.
No, I like being on the bottom.
Well,
can I
you know what they say about
Oh shit. What up, world?
Not fine.
See?
For sure. 2.8.
Wait, what the fuck?
No, this.
Alright, so here's everything we need to fix the car. CSF Radiator, silicone hoses, a nice Mini of Dallas bag they gave me with new bracket and gaskets. Silicone hoses and CSF radiator, nicely tucked away, nice and safe. Wow, that thing looks great. I'm just gonna have to wire it to those two, power and ground right there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wire it and tap it into the auxiliary fan controller. So then when my auxiliary fan turns on, this fan turns on as well. It'll help cool the car. So it'll be controlled by the car, but if that doesn't work out so well, I can always swap those two wires to a switch and I can control it myself. So we'll see how it goes. But I just ran these little, almost like zip ties, but they're made for radiator fans, through the radiator. Carefully, didn't want to mess anything up. So
Here's the front end with the ties through. So then what I'm essentially going to do is close the tie up with the back end piece of it, and it's like sticky, and then it'll hold that and basically clamp it into place, and that's the front end of the radiator, and as you see, holding the fan on. But I just want to make sure the placement's correct, and that this fan doesn't bump into anything on the motor before I cut these ties and commit to this location of the fan. So we're gonna see what happens here. Alright, so as you can see, I added some zip ties here, just because the gasket, which is this, that holds into this bracket here, it isn't great. I actually got a new gasket here. I ordered new brackets as well as gaskets. This gasket here was actually back ordered from Germany. There's no gaskets online, dealerships, so they're completely out. But I had this one. I didn't have this one, so I got this one from the dealership, but I also ordered new brackets. Mine are a little beat up, but they're actually perfectly fine, so I'm gonna return those, not use them. The gaskets, the way they sit is a little funky. They kind of like sit in placement of certain grooves of the bracket, and it doesn't sit super flush, but I did add some zip ties just to keep things sturdy here. Before, it did sit well into the radiator here for the AC, was kind of flopping around a little bit, just had a little bit of play, and I didn't really want anything to have any excess movement. I didn't want this to kind of move and hit the new radiator or anything. Kind of trying to keep everything flush. So I had just a couple of zip ties, make sure everything was in there tight. And as you can see, this is pretty one solid unit now. And then now we're just gonna add our radiator, drop that in, check it out, and then bolt everything up. And I went to drop the radiator in from the top side here, put the radiator in. The back of my fan that I had just attached was actually hitting this nut that's on the water pump pulley. So I want to be able to drop it in easily, so what I might do is that fan, I might shift it over slightly to the side to avoid that, so I can easily take this in and out without having to mess with this whole front bracket setup. I want to keep this sturdy, but I also want to be able to drop my radiator in and out easily if I ever need to service it again. So currently we have a fan right on the center, but that bolt is hitting the back end of this where the motor is for the fan. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift it slightly over to the side. Should have no effect on the cooling of the fan itself, just a matter of the placement. And just in terms of the direction of the radiator flow, hot water will be coming in through this top inlet here, and then the cool water will be coming out this inlet back into the engine over there. So it should have no effect on it ultimately, and the water is going back and forth in the radiator, so it shouldn't have any issues there. Now we have the fan shifted over more. We can hopefully place this into the car and see if it avoids everything and doesn't hit this much well. Bolt up to this bracket here. So it'll sit flush kind of in this corner, and a little hard to hold it and film at the same time. However, you can see that the outlet and fan the fan is pretty close to this AC pulley here. However, it's not touching it, and when we bolt up the radiator to the bracket here, it'll be a lot tighter. So I think this placement is actually perfect. That puts the wiring right where it needs to be, so we could wire it up and go off right to the side here. But we're gonna get this bolted up really nice and then start connecting some of the lines and the hoses. So just a quick note, it's always important to double check things. Like if I had not checked those
the placement of the fan before I cut those ties. I would have had to order new ties because once you cut them, that's it. You know, they're not usable again because you put them in so tight. And then it's only kind of like a cheap one-time kind of tie deal, just like a normal zip tie is. They're like $5 or $6, but I mean most auto places have them. But for me, I just ordered it off Amazon. So if I had cut these right now, I probably wouldn't have had to been able to put the fan on. But you know, like I said, I put the fan on with the ties in, but just didn't place the end of the back end of the tie in and cut it so I can double check my fitment. Now that's really important, especially when you're installing new parts. You always want to test fit things before you do the final bolt and check. So radiator is bolted in, sits pretty snug. I have to wire these two, so once I wire it and heat shrink it, I could tape it off. There's a little bracket here that I can sit on, but I'm going to want to fish that wire, maybe to avoid this hot pipe right here. But I just have to connect the hoses, and then this will run up to the inlet, to the going into the motor here, and then the outlet's right here. So it's pretty straightforward, but pretty solid. If I shake it here, it's moving the whole bracket setup, and this will be more supported once I get the front mount on. But as you can see, it is a little tight here inside the engine bay. But you can see that having the fan offset, you're not going to hit the back end of this electric fan to this nut here. And it's actually placed perfectly, so I'm not hitting the AC pulley, so we have no issues there. So everything's good, just got to finish bolting it up, and then we can bleed the coolant system. This is the old one, not too worn out, but lower hose is bolted up nice. Upper hose requires a little bit of trimming, maybe about a ½ inch or so, just because when it's on the fitting here, it's got a buckle in it, and it's up on the upper neck as high as it can go. So we don't want this buckle here because we want the coolant to flow freely without any restrictions. So we're just going to want to maybe trim this about a ½ inch. We can use this as a pretty good guideline because we're going to want this hose to come up to here on this fitting. So we're just going to trim that with a razor blade and see what happens. Radiators installed, hoses are both securely mounted, upper and lower hoses. This line to the expansion tank is mounted, so everything's all set there, so I could actually start filling it up with coolant and checking for leaks or anything. Auxiliary fan.
routed the wires through the dash here, and it goes under and through the dash, underneath the glove box, and then through the firewall. So now, flip that switch. My electric fan's running. Now it's off. So excited. I can get my freaking AC fan to work. Yes. Radiator hose down to the lower radiator hose. Car's fully bled. No hiccups there, which is great. My auxiliary fan is running in the front, which I didn't think was going to happen, but I got it to work, which is sweet. So that actually turned on when the car got up to temperature, which is great, because that means hopefully that will run to cool my AC, and I should hopefully have cold AC now, which is like such a